I didn't realize I was paying for peace until the money ran out. At first, it didn't feel like payment. It felt like responsibility, like being a man, like doing what men do when they want their home to stay quiet and their marriage to stay intact. I told myself I wasn't avoiding anything. I was managing it. I was smoothing rough edges. I was absorbing pressure so everyone else could breathe easier. That's what providers do, right? I was wrong. I wasn't providing stability. I was renting silence. I'm in my early 60s now. Retired. The house is too quiet in a way that isn't restful. The kind of quiet that presses on your ears and makes you aware of every thought you've avoided for decades. Looking back, I can trace the arc of my marriage not through anniversaries or vacations, but through purchases, through transfers, through checks written to keep arguments from happening, through money used as insulation between me and the things I didn't want to face. That I didn't marry a bad woman. That's important to say. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't stupid. But she was unhappy, and I was terrified of what would happen if that unhappiness ever had to be spoken out loud. I paid for it not to be. Early on, the signs were small. A look of disappointment when I came home late. A sigh when I didn't notice a new dress. A comment about how other husbands seemed more attentive. None of it felt catastrophic. It felt like background noise. Manageable. I learned quickly that money made the noise quieter. If she was upset, I booked a weekend away. If she felt unappreciated, I bought jewelry. If she complained about the house, I renovated. When she said she felt stuck, I upgraded the car. Each time, the tension would lift. She'd smile again. The house would return to normal. And I would tell myself, see, problem solved. But the problem was never solved. It was deferred. What I didn't understand then, what I understand painfully well now, is that money doesn't resolve emotional debt. It compounds it. Interest accrues quietly. And one day you look up and realize you're insolvent. That I was good at earning. That became my identity. Work harder, earn more, keep everything afloat. I thought my value in the marriage was tied directly to my ability to provide comfort without friction. I took pride in being the man who didn't argue, didn't yell, didn't demand. I told myself I was patient, mature, evolved. In reality, I was absent, not physically. I was there every night, ate dinner at the table, paid attention when spoken to, but I wasn't present in the way that requires risk. I didn't challenge. I didn't question. I didn't say, this isn't okay, when something clearly wasn't, because saying that would have led to conflict. And conflict was expensive. When the first infidelity happened, yes, the first, I didn't confront it the way a younger man might imagine he would. I didn't explode. I didn't threaten divorce. I didn't even raise my voice. I felt something colder than anger. I felt calculation. I asked myself one question. What will it cost me to keep things as they are? I didn't want to lose the house. I didn't want to split assets. I didn't want to explain to friends and family. I didn't want to admit that after all my providing, all my sacrificing, I still hadn't been enough to I paid. Not directly. There wasn't a bill labeled a fair forgiveness. But there was a sudden willingness to fund things she'd been asking for. A trip she wanted to take alone. A hobby that required equipment. An unspoken agreement that certain questions would not be asked. She never said thank you. She didn't need to. The message was clear. You can keep this life if you don't make it uncomfortable. I told myself it was temporary. A rough patch. I convinced myself that marriage is long, that people stumble, that forgiveness is strength. All of that can be true, but none of it applied to what I was doing. I wasn't forgiving. I was purchasing denial. The second time hurt less. That should have scared me, but it didn't. By then, I had adjusted my expectations. Fidelity became negotiable. Peace remained non-negotiable. I started to notice how often I reached for my wallet instead of my voice. Every disagreement ended the same way, with me conceding materially and her conceding emotionally, just enough to restore equilibrium. New furniture, private school tuition, remodeling projects that cost more than conversations ever would have. Friends used to joke about how easygoing I was, how lucky my wife was. I smiled along. Inside, I felt hollowed out, like a house where all the load-bearing walls had been removed and replaced with temporary supports. That I didn't know how to argue anymore. I didn't know how to ask for anything. My needs had become theoretical, things I acknowledged in private but never expected to be met. Sex became transactional too, though neither of us said it that way. Periods of affection followed periods of spending. Distance followed restraint. It was a rhythm, predictable, depressing, efficient, and here's the part that's hardest to admit. I participated willingly. I wasn't a victim. I chose the path of least resistance every time it presented itself. I told myself I was protecting my family. What I was really protecting was my image of myself as a man who kept things under control. Control is seductive, especially when it's quiet. Years passed. Kids grew up. Expenses shifted. Retirement loomed. And slowly, subtly, my financial leverage diminished. Income became fixed. Flexibility disappeared. The checks got harder to write. That's when the peace started to fray. Without the constant infusion of money, old grievances resurfaced. Resentments I thought had been buried came back sharp and specific. She became restless again, irritable, distant. The silence in the house changed texture. It was no longer calm. It was charged that I realized then that money hadn't been solving problems. It had been muting alarms. When I could no longer pay to avoid confrontation, confrontation arrived all at once. Decades of unspoken dissatisfaction came flooding back, and I had no tools to deal with it. I'd never practiced. I'd outsourced emotional labor to my bank account. The irony is that by the time I was ready to talk, I had nothing left to say that mattered. My words carried no weight. They never had. The currency of our marriage had always been financial, and my balance was low. She accused me of being emotionally unavailable. She was right, but what she didn't see, and what I never articulated, was that emotional availability had been systematically discouraged. Every time I tried to engage early on, it led to discomfort. Every time I paid instead, it led to relief. People learn from outcomes. Eventually, the marriage ended. Not explosively, quietly. Paperwork, agreements, polite conversations about logistics. No screaming, no catharsis, just exhaustion. Now, sitting alone in a smaller place I never wanted but can afford, I understand the full cost of what I did. Financial bankruptcy would have been easier. This is emotional bankruptcy. The kind where you realize you've been spending from an account that doesn't replenish. That I don't miss the arguments we never had. I miss the man I might have been if I'd been willing to endure them. That if you're reading this and you're younger, or even my age but earlier in the process, understand this. Money can buy quiet, but it cannot buy resolution. Every dollar you use to avoid a hard conversation is a loan against your future self. One day, the bill comes due. Silence returns in the end. Peace does not. That if you made it this far, you're a legend. Leave a like and subscribe so I know you're one of the real ones. Thank you.